Hi everyone, my name is Betsy Marcello, and for my presentation today, I will be discussing interpersonal stress and burnout in the workplace. Interpersonal stress is described in our textbook as stress derived from difficulties with others in the workplace. And so there's many examples of this in the textbook, and some are listed here, but these ones will be discussed in my own example. Employee burnout is also described in our textbook or defined in our textbook as a syndrome that derives from constant work stress exposure and it leads to disengagement in the workplace. For my own workplace problem, I decided to talk about my experience as a drive-through worker working in a fast food chain, which I found had a lot of interpersonal stresses for myself. And so one of the main ones was that I couldn't create any social connections with my coworkers because we were constantly under observation by our leaders who kind of discouraged conversations. And then another one was that the job required a lot of constant emotional regulation because we dealt with a lot of impatient customers who constantly rushed us to get our jobs done. And lastly, I had many difficulties with the scheduling manager because they were very unorganized and very uncommunicative about the schedules. These same schedules were also constantly changed throughout the week without any notification from them, and it led to many misunderstandings among me and my coworkers. And so I noticed some signs of burnout. Um, when working there, which were for my coworkers, many of them began to show up late for their shifts, and many other ones just decided to not show up for their shifts at all because they were unsure. And then in myself, I found that I actually developed a lot of anxiety about going to work because I wasn't sure of whether I was looking at the correct schedule, and so that itself created a lot of anxiety in myself. And I honestly, it exhausted me a lot to the point where I had to actually leave the job. And there was a lot of good information discussed in the textbook about the effects of worker stress. And so um, it described that they can present themselves in psychological and physiological reactions, which include feelings of anxiety, frustration, fear, and depression, but also physical reactions, which include increased fatigue, trouble sleeping, and excessive sweating. And I myself displayed some of these symptoms or reactions when I was working in that last job. And the textbook also noted that this emotional exhaustion due to these persistent stressors can also lead to a decrease in work performance and an increase in tardiness and absenteeism. And so this chart here from the textbook actually shows us the relationship between work performance and work stress. And so based on this, we can see that a high and excess amount of stress shows poor work performance. For my empirical article, I wanted something that focused a bit more on fast food restaurants. And so I came across this one by Red One, who sought to answer the research question of whether work stress influenced employee performance and job satisfaction. And so in this correlational study, we had a predictor variable of worker stress and a criterion variable of employee performance and job satisfaction. And this was a very helpful conceptual model that outlined basically the study that he conducted. And this is the article if anyone wants to take a second look. The methodology behind this study was from quantitative data collected from 174 questionnaire survey respondents who worked in fast food. And so this survey was self administered and only contained closed ended questions. And it was sectioned into three parts that asked questions about different things. And so one of them was they sought to gain personal information about the workers. They tried to assess employee job satisfaction and then assess the causes of work stress. But they also wanted to evaluate some of the coping mechanisms for management intervention of these work stressors. And the study revealed a lot of great information, but some of the most significant ones that I found was that the data actually showed that 85.1% of the employees actually experienced work stress from the collection of surveys that they presented. And so it found that even 19.5 of them actually rated their stress as extremely high. And the data also revealed that some of the most significant sources of stress from these fast food workplaces were role ambiguity, role conflict, and role overload. And there was even a mention of interpersonal tension at work as being one of the most common work stressors. And lastly, there was correlations found between employee stress and job performance, which indicated that work stress was a main contributor to absenteeism, turnover, and the quality of service provided by these workers. As for my solutions, I included some organizational coping strategies from the textbook, which are to facilitate supportive work environments and to improve communication with the team. The textbook explained that these are some of the things that the organization can do to improve some of the work stress that these employees are facing. And so, in these two, I would say that it's important for the leaders to combat this work stress by allowing for more open communication. And so, in order to do this, there has to be a mutual respect among the workers and the leaders. And this will allow for the workers to feel more integrated in their team. And so, by developing more group building activities as well, that allows for coworkers to get to know each other much better, they will feel part of a more supportive work environment. And lastly, we have been talking a lot about surveys. And so, one of the great things about surveys is that they're inexpensive and they're quite easy to administer. And so, I would suggest to create surveys to receive anonymous feedback from employees so that they feel a little bit more open again to talk about their concerns and things that can be improved in the organization. And as explained in the textbook, this is only effective if the organization takes measures to try to improve these conditions from the feedback they receive from these surveys. And these are my references. Thank you.